Good afternoon, girls. Here's the exercise that we did earlier on today, focusing on subjunctives, specifically the indirect questions. Quintus cum advenisset. So if you were passing that, you would go, that is third person, singular, pluperfect, subjunctive, part of a temporal clause. Quintus, when he had arrived at Venusia, nesciebat, he did not know what had happened. So, the indirect question, subjunctive is the accidiset, and that is pluperfect subjunctive that I recognise because of the iset ending, but also because nesciebat is in the secondary sequence because it's imperfect. And then, if it's secondary sequence, that means that we have three options. It means that the subjunctive will either be pluperfect if the question's the past, or it will be imperfect if the question was in the present, or it will be a future participle with the imperfect version of sum if the question is in the future. So again, we are just thinking, is it going to be pluperfect? Is it going to be imperfect? Or is it going to be the future participle? He did not know what had happened. Therefore, it was a question about the past. The old man, whom he met, literally to whom he gave a meeting, dative of the relative pronoun there, whom he met near the street, asked him why he redisset, why he had returned to Venusia. So again, redisset, we're thinking. Rogavit, secondary sequence again, because it's the perfect tense, he asked him why he, and then it's going to be either pluperfect, or it's going to be imperfect, or it's going to be a future participle. And here it is the pluperfect subjunctive because it's a question about the past. Don't you know, he said, quot, how many misfortunes, coloni, our farms, acciderint, have suffered? Do you not know what misfortunes, or actually, I'm sorry, what misfortune has happened to our farm? Acciderint. Don't you know how many misfortunes have happened to our farm? So, acciderint, you are thinking skis, primary, because it's present. So if it's primary, that means that, again, we have three different options this time. If it's a question about the past, then it will be perfect. If it's a question about the present, then it's going to be the present subjunctive. Or if it's a question about the future, it's a future participle with the present form of to be. So it's, again, just to repeat those, if it's primary, that means that it's going to be, if it's past, it's going to be the perfect subjunctive. If it's present subjunctive. Or if it's a future question, then it's the future participle with the present form of the verb to be. Don't you know how many misfortunes have happened to our farm? Acciderint, that is a question about the past, hence it being in the perfect, relatively rare form of the perfect subjunctive. Quintus asked the old man whether his parents were still remaining at Venusia. Manerent. Indirect question, that's why it's the subjunctive part of this num, whether his parents were still remaining at Venusia. Rogavit, perfect, so it's secondary sequence. One of those past ones, secondary sequence. So again, that means the subjunctive is going to be pluperfect if it's in the past, it's going to be imperfect if the question is in the present, and it's going to be the future participle with the imperfect version of to be if it's going to be a question about the future. Quintus asked the old man whether his parents were still remaining in Venusia. Therefore, it's imperfect subjunctive. Think of my trivium. You can recognize it simply by the ending. It's not isem, ises, iset, which is the pluperfect. It's the infinitive, ere, ending, plus mst, mustis, unt at the end of it. But the actual question he's saying is, are my parents still remaining at Venusia? So it's a question about the present within the secondary sequence, so that means that it is the imperfect subjunctive. The old man responded, they have left from Venusia. I do not know whether they have gone to Rome or they are remaining in the country. So we've got two subjunctives here. We have ierint and maneant. Sorry, we've not got quite all of that word in. So I do not know, that is a primary sequence. Whether they have gone, that's a question about the past, so it's perfect subjunctive. So I do not know whether they have gone or whether they are remaining. So first of all, that's a question about the past, so it's the perfect subjunctive. That is a question about the present, so it's present subjunctive. With Venusia having been left behind, ablative, absolute, perfect, passive participle phrase. Quintus started on a journey which was leading to Rome. There's no indirect question there. Having set out to Rome, profectus, perfect active participle, nominative, singular, describing the subject. He rogavit, he asked all whom he met whether they had seen. So he asked. Perfect. So it's a secondary sequence. So the subjunctive again will be a pluperfect if it's in the past, imperfect if it's a question about the present, or future participle with the imperfect form of to be if it is a question about the future. He asked all whom he met whether they had seen. Pluperfect subjunctive. Isem, says, is set, isem, is set, is sent. Perfect infinitive with the mst, mustis, und at the end of it. He asked whether they had seen his parents. He asked everyone whether they had seen. Pluperfect subjunctive. I hope that this is making some sort of sense. All the very best. I'll see you tomorrow.